Thank you so much, Rami. I think it was a really big introduction. I hope you can see my screen. I have 15 minutes, so I start my is Youth for Peace. But before that, I also want to give you a slight background of the story of doing what I do. So I'm a young person from a village in India. I was born in a village, and then I grew up in another village. I studied in my native language, not in English. I got my first opportunity to access agency in graduation when I could decide, okay, what I really want to do. Before that, it was my parents, family members who were choosing things for me. I kept volunteering for multiple causes for 4 years of the university, and then it was when I found a hook in understanding peace building work and how we can engage in intergenerational or intercultural dialogues. That's where, after 7 years of working as a volunteer, I started this organization called Youth for Peace International. So you see, like this story would look like to most of the people who might be already joining here. I am not an exception, and that's what I want to share with you. Basically, when I was working there as at Youth for Peace International, we were young people. My team was entirely young, and that's where we thought that, okay, the kind of things that we want to do, or the kind of challenges that we are facing, we are neither alone in any of those. Both the challenges or the kind of things we want to do. So we started looking out to more and more such people who are about this network of young peace pillars, and I became Asia coordinator, and I also became part of the world. But overall, this work that I'm doing, which is on youth peace and security, that's kind of ikigai for me. You can read about this concept. It's a Japanese concept, ikigai. But basically, this is what I'm doing. Now, going back to what UNOI is. So UNOI is a global network of around 120 plus member organizations from 70 countries. These are the organizations like Citizens, and there are other organizations who are like part of this global network. And we are based in different countries, but we are having a same vision where how we can enhance the work or the support towards young people. Young people specifically engage in youth peace building work. So let's talk about the narrative itself. So far, you might have observed around you that there is one narrative for young people, that they are the victim of violence. So they need to be supported. That's the feeling, right? If you see someone is a victim, you want to support them. Now, another narrative is that young people are the perpetrator of the violence, somebody who is doing the violence. So when you see, okay, somebody is doing the violence, you want to stop them. And when you look at these two narratives, when you're talking about victim, it is primarily for young women and interchangeable, but these are the common narratives that the world has for young people. Now, problem with these two narratives is that we are not talking about a majority of young people who are neither victim or perpetrator, or the people who are actually trying to contribute positively to their communities. Now, if you do not include them in decision making, why that is problematic? Because you will never support all of the young peace builder who will come to you for any kind of support. You will not recognize them. They will have no incentive to work in this field, and you will just discredit all the amazing work that they are doing. So that is a big issue we are talking about, and it is not just about one or two people. It's about all the people who are working in this field, and how they are discriminated just because they are young. They are not trusted with all these decision making responsibilities. Now, this is certainly problematic. So what happened when young people faced this? Young people came together. More than 11,000 young people from 110 countries over the period of 7 to 8 years. They came together, and they wanted to have a global consensus towards this positive role that young people play. And it was supported by UNOI, Search for Common Ground, and government of Jordan at that point of time. And finally, we got this common consensus, which is a United Nations Security Council resolution 2250. 2250 is just a number, but why it is important? Because this is the first ever UN resolution, which is binding on all the countries of the world, which actually recognize that the young people play an important and key role in the in their community peace building, sustaining and building peace both. So this is really very interesting, because before that there was no common understanding or no common consensus. When you will talk to the people, they're like, no, young people play. They're like, no, we only see them either doing some harm or getting affected of it. So these were the only two narratives that you had. This resolution came on 9 December 2015, so it has been around 5.5 years since then. This was the first time when the youth peace and security was identified and formalized as a relevant political field. Before that, it was not taken up as a political issue to discuss. This also specifically mentioned about who are young people. So for this context, they talked about young people of age group 18 to 29 years of old. I hope most of you are already in this age category. But this resolution didn't do anything new. It's not that after getting this resolution, more young people started doing this work. Rather, young people were already doing a lot of peace building work, and this just builds upon that existing movement that they have. And this is legally binding on different countries. That's what I want to mention here. Now, what does this resolution say? This says that young people have 5 different kind of needs, or young people have 5 different kind of needs. One is related to participation, that they need to participate effectively, meaningfully, actively in all these social, political, economical spaces. So they need to be included in those decision-making spaces, be it in the peace processes or be it after the reconciliation processes. Second is, it says that when young people are engaging, of course, all the people who are in that area are at harm, but young peace builders who are engaging in that community, they need specific attention towards their protection. They should not be, charged with these anti-government, anti-national laws by the government. Third thing is prevention, that instead of escalating an issue to a level where there is always a violence, how about we try to work on preventing the violence? That's the need of young people. Next is that young people and other stakeholders that we know, be it United Nations, be it religious leaders, community actors, or government agencies, donors, corporate, they need to partner with each other to be able to address this issue. And the last is disengagement and reintegration, where the people who are already engaged in these situations, how they can be disengaged and how they can be reintegrated in the community. So this has been the resolution. And after that, there was a very important research that was done, which is called Missing Peace Report. Why this is important? Because here you will see that more than 4,230 young people from around 155 countries were consulted over a period of 2 years. They were asked about, okay, what are the challenges that they are facing, what are the things that they are doing, how they want to do, what are their aspirations, what are their barriers, all of that. And very extensive process it was. It has a lot of focus group discussions in 44 countries, regional, national, online consultation, focus group, country focused studies, all of that. And finally, there were really amazing insights that came out from this. So I will share some insights from this. One insight is about how young people are already engaged in peace building work. Okay, so you will see that there was a survey of 399 youth-led peace building organizations, and we got to know that 97% of their staff is unpaid volunteer. And I'm not sure, but I think most of the people who are currently working at Citizens might also not be a full-time paid staff of it. So that's the reality. 97% of us are forced to do the work voluntarily just because the support system is not there. And that's very unfortunate. If anyone, if even the ISIS terrorists, if they engage in this, not even army, but just the ISIS terrorists, if they engage in some violent activities, they also sometimes get paid, but not the young peace builder. most of them. Second is that these youth-led peace-building organizations are somehow gender balanced. 53% of them are led by male, and 45% of them are led by female. 2% of them are led by mixed genders. So this is what this situation is. But the funding has been a huge issue for youth-led peace-building organizations. 49% of these 399 youth-led organizations were working under a budget of 5,000 USD per annum. And now you can see, depending on whatever country you come from, but 5,000 USD per annum is not even a budget to employ at least one beginner level employee for a year. So this is the annual budget with which most of the youth-led peace-building organizations are working from. So this is very difficult for these organizations to sustain and do the work. That is what I was talking about when there is no support system, because young people are not considered as doing this kind of peace-building work. Now, talking about some of the myths which it debunked, and it might be very much, I think in Afghanistan, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, and Bangladesh, I know that these myths are always there. So if you will be reading it, I think that's very much important to key specific attention to give specific attention to these. So one is that it is always seen that if youth population is increasing, then the violence will also increase. That's the major narrative. But actually, this debunks it. It says that there is no specific correlation of youth population increasing and violence also increasing always. Second is that young migrant refugees and IDPs, internally displaced people, are not actually a threat to the community. So if somebody moving from Jaffna is starting living in Colombo, or from Gal started living in Colombo, they are not a threat to the host community. So they should not be treated in that manner. Or in any way, let's say if a Sri Lankan because of the war, they moved to and they started living in Sweden or Norway, they should not be treated as a host threat to the community. Second is that young people are not drawn to violence simply because lack of employment or education. I'm sure many of your grandparents, at least my grandparents, they were poor, they were not employed, they were not very well educated, but they didn't go to violent extremism. Then why it is considered that I will go to the violent extremism just because I will not have employment and education? There is actually no direct correlation of not having employment and education and people falling into the violence and violent extremism. That's the major myth. The last myth, which is that sometimes government agencies all started to put hard-fisted law enforcement and security approaches. So for an example, there was this attack in Bangladesh or attack in Sri Lanka or Pakistan. The government what will they do? They will just strengthen the funding regulations. They will they will make it even harder for the NGOs to receive the fund or the fund transfer and all those kind of things. No, so these hard-fisted, or they will just start picking people because they have some doubts that these people might be engaged in these kind of violent activities. So these hard-fisted law enforcement and security approaches are actually counterproductive. What they do, they just further alienate people from the community. So these has the recommendations. So there are three specific recommendations. One is that young people need to be included meaningfully, politically, economically, and formally. Second is that there should be investment in capacity, agency, leadership, and coalition development of the young people. And third is young people need to be partnered in all phases. So be it the design, implementation, monitoring, assessment, all of it, young people need to be engaged if you really want to have cohesive peace building or inclusive peace building. So these are the recommendations. Now, what is the role of young people? So anyway, this UNSCR, United Nations resolution, calls the member organization, but actually there is a lot of onus on young people themselves. They need to own this. They need to have, they need to become integral part of the advocacy that can support the national or local level agenda. Second is that we can also lead and collaborate with other stakeholders, like how citizens is bringing everyone together and having discussions around it. There can be many ways by which you can also bring your community together and have discussions around it. Now, talking about, okay, let's say if you want to do certain kind of advocacy, what are the three things from me that you can take away and that you can have discussions with your stakeholder? Number one is just to make people believe that young people are the first responder and quick to adapt in the situation often when you see that other stakeholder like government or international NGOs are not able to engage. So that's why it is very important to understand that young people have a specific comparative advantage to contribute to these issues, which other stakeholder cannot bring. And that's why it is important to work with youth as a vital partner. And that's why their engagement is very much important. Second is that young people are very diverse. Okay, so it's different. Young people coming from India is diverse from Sri Lanka, but within the Sri Lanka, young people coming from Sri Lanka, let's say Colombo, might be different than Gal, might be different than Jaffna. Somebody who has studied in Sinhalese might be different. Somebody who might be studying in some other language might be different. Even two brothers are not same. Like how we can assume that young people, men, women, transgender, everyone is just same and they need to be addressed in the same manner. So there should be flexibility in approach. And last is that young people should not be treated as if they are only creative and innovative. That's not sufficient. Okay, yes, of course we are good in using social media. Yes, of course we are creative and innovative, but beyond that we also have a social political agency. We need to engage. Those spaces of engaging in social political spaces should be secure, safe, made safe for young people. So these are the three things which probably you can think later. Now, talking about some of the tips that I have so far thought of. So one is that there is no shortcut if you really want to work on these issues of peace building in general. If you are a young, you might take a lot of time. I haven't figured it out. So you need to cover your own journey. You need to learn and you need to contribute to your own community. Second is there is a limit for a person and organization's effort and reach and impact. Okay, so beyond the person and beyond the organization, you need to work on partnerships, coalitions, networks who have similar visions, collective visions, and also where they can have a collective voice to influence the decision making, because a collective voice actually matters a lot. Now, when you are engaging in this, you need to have consistency in your effort. You cannot have those fluctuations. Sometimes I'm working, sometimes I'm not working. It might not work over a long period. And that's why you need to build value-based leadership. No, you need to have value in the work that you are doing. Like you need to put your personal values in it, be it believe in the justice, believe in equality, believe in gender equality, like anything, but you need to have believe in your values, and then you need to put that value in the leadership. Nobody would like to see a leader which is not having values in the work that person is doing. And beyond that, I would like to end with this point, which is that beyond whatever grassroots peace building work that you are doing, that is very much important, but be aware of the systems and the institutions. How I'm talking about the narrative. Yes, there is a narrative. If you are not going to engage in changing that narrative, it will never change. And people coming, like young people, generation after generation, will keep facing the same kind of discrimination or same kind of distrust or mistrust. So please think about it, do all the good work that you are doing, and thank you so much from my side. If you have questions, happy to take.
Thank you so much, Mr. Upadhyay. Actually, we can open the question and answer round as well. If anyone has any questions to be put forward to Mr. Upadhyay. You can include your questions in the chat box. Just reminding you all.
Can we join Youth for Peace? Yes, Youth for Peace is a movement, and Youth for Peace International is an organization based in India. I can share some links after that. You can follow our work, and if there are opportunities, of course, you can join. But moreover, it's a movement. So like how it was a Me Too movement, it's the same way there is this Youth for Peace movement. So of course, you can join this movement and you can do your own work. Ashraful is asking, would you please share your opinion on youth participation, particularly in conflict resolution? I'm not understanding, Ashraful, what do you mean? Because from my side, I would say that young people's engagement in all the processes of peace building is important, be it peace processes itself, be it de-escalation of the conflict, be it conflict management, conflict transformation, or in general peace building, peacemaking, peacekeeping. But most importantly in peace building, which like conflict resolution is a part of it. When beyond conflict resolution, when we will go into the peace education kind of training session, then you will I can explain more how there is difference between prevention of conflict, de-escalation of the conflict, prevention management, conflict resolution, and conflict transformation. So we approve that it's important that we think from transformational lens of the conflict. Can you please elaborate the recommendation? Yeah, I think the time is up already.
Exactly. We are running a bit short of time, so thank you so much for your very, very informative speech. I think all of us had a lot to take away from that, and which is why you're getting a lot of questions also, because everyone was very engaged in it. Thank you so much. We look forward to engaging with you very soon again. Also, thank you so much for your time.
Sure. Thank you so much.